I've just come back from vacation, and so I'm kind of floating along, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm living in the moment, and I'm being conscious. And yet, you know, Randy and I were talking on the phone today, and I'm thinking, but is anything changing, or am I still hanging on to the old? You know, am I making progress?
Yeah, am I making progress? That's one of those lovely questions that comes up. And the answer to am I making progress is, if you can ask that question, then you know you are.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because it means you're being conscious. But it also is all about the idea that as you bring deeper and deeper and deeper levels of your soul's energy into your body, and as you become more and more conscious and raise your vibration, the way you experience the world starts to radically shift. And so your perception of progress can be completely different. That's a big, big aspect of this. And Veronica has a whole talk that we gave on it in a private session that's being transcribed. But maybe we should just hit the highlights for you guys right now, because it's probably a good idea. The push for ascension is not a physical, it's not a physicality-driven experience. You are very, very used to fear creating adrenaline, which creates a desire or a need for action. Okay? That's the pattern. Fear, adrenaline, action. Ascension interacts with the chakra above the body. That's sort of the ascension chakra. That's the place where the soul connects with the body, is actually outside of the physical form. So there is no adrenaline-based drive for action associated with ascension. It's a free will-driven interaction. So one of the symptoms that we get, yours was, am I getting anywhere? Another way people are bringing this to us is, I don't have any motivation for anything, or I've lost my passion, or nothing seems thrilling or exciting to me anymore, right? And the answer to that is based in the idea that you're looking for the old paradigm to fuel the new paradigm. You're looking for the adrenaline-based drive to create change in your spiritual world. And that entire experience is built upon the fear platform. When you exit the fear platform and you enter the conscious platform, you have to recognize, and this is challenging, we understand, but you have to recognize that it has a different motivating factor, a different motivating force, a different force for movement. And it's not about how the body feels in the sense of, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going on vacation next week, or I'm so excited, I got a new job, or I'm so excited, I met a new man. It's nothing much excites me, but everything fascinates me. That's when you know. When you go, this is interesting, that's interesting, this is interesting, that's interesting, that's when you know you're being motivated on the ascension journey, because that means everything is teaching you something. And you're leaving behind the necessity for fear to motivate you to action. Fear and excitement are just two sides of the same coin. So does this mean life's boring? No, it means that life starts to be blissful, which means a state that has no opposite. Because you're experiencing bliss by looking around and going, everything's interesting. Instead of, that's fearful, that's exciting. Fear and exciting burn out your adrenal glands. They make you exhausted, blah, 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 blah. They're lower vibrational states because they certainly have opposites. And they're certainly looking always for the other shoe to drop. So when everything starts to become interesting, the trap is for the mind to come along and say, oh, this is boring. This can't really mean anything. This is boring. You don't feel passionate. You must da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all those things the mind says. When the reality is, if you're looking for the same go juice that you've always had before, then you're demanding yourself be in a fear paradigm, because the fear paradigm is where you've always been. You have to become accustomed to the ascension or consciousness paradigm having a motivation by everything teaches you something, and using free will to find that more interesting than the old adrenaline-based platform you used to operate from. So is anything happening? Do I have any motivation? All those questions are completely legitimate, of course. And the answer is anything interesting? And if things are interesting, which they are, then you know you're walking in the Ascension paradigm. Everyone kind of seems to have had, well, not everyone, we shouldn't say that. Many people seem to have had the idea that Ascension was going to be exciting. All this change is going to be so exciting. When the truth became, all this change is just really interesting. And then you get fearful that you're going to be bored. And if you just are in the messy middle ground of transitioning out of the adrenaline-based idea of how life is into the consciousness-based idea, and you get through that messy middle ground, we are confident you're going to find the other side of this to be very, 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 very much more pleasing to you. So that kind of got two birds with one stone, as they say, right? It got the, am I making any progress, and why is everything so damn boring?
Yeah. Because I've been feeling just kind of in a state of things are interesting, but I don't have a lot of drive. I'm just going along.
Yeah, just going along.
Yeah.
Just going along, knowing everything's teaching you something and finding everything interesting. Mm-hmm. Neutral observation. Remember back in the day we said neutral observation isn't boring, but you're going to think it is at first? Mm-hmm. Okay. The Ascension-based platform or Ascension-based consciousness or Ascension-based operating system, Homo Spiritus, whatever language ends up sticking, you're going to think is boring at first too. Because you're so accustomed to having your body full of adrenaline because of constantly looking for what you should be afraid of. That when you stop constantly looking around for what you should be afraid of and you remove that, it's boring because nothing's happening until you realize that boring and nothing happening is far more interesting and, dare we say, enjoyable than ever was. You just have to get past the idea that you know, if you're not going 1,000 miles an hour, you're dead or bored to death. And a lot of you, because you're really these high-achieving, what do we call you, overachievers, you're constantly seeking that next thing, John, that next answer, right? What's the next thing? Yes, that's well and good, Elohim. You told us 90 minutes of interesting information, but what about next week? What's going to be next time, right? And we know that's not just John, but we're teasing John about it because, you know, John's sort of fun to tease about that sort of stuff. It's not just John that does that, of course. It's a human thing because you want to make sure that next thing doesn't kill you. So you need to be aware of what that next thing is, even peripherally, because it could be a threat. It could be the warring tribe coming through the camp and taking all the women and children away, right? You don't know. So that next thing can feel very scary because it's unknown. And unknowns are difficult to sit in you. But of course, Ascension-based platform says, right now is pretty interesting. And I'm handling right now, and I trust myself to react to whatever comes with neutral observation and my tools. So if I have neutral observation and I have my tools, then whatever comes is going to be okay, so I can stop thinking about next and start being in now. And that's how you break the habit of not being in the moment. Telling yourself, I'm going to be in the moment, I'm going to be in the moment, I'm going to be in the moment, is not the best way to be in the moment. It's very challenging, and it hasn't always worked, right? You're like, I think I was in the moment yesterday. One of the reasons you can't be in the moment is not because the moment isn't interesting. It's because tomorrow, the next moment, could be scary, and you don't know how to deal with the could be scary. But now we believe you have enough tools to deal with could be scary that you can stop living in could be scary and start living in what the moment actually is. That's kind of what we've been doing all along. You got it?